Imagine the largest boneless animal on Earth. It's not a whale, it's not a shark, it's a squid. A squid that lives in waters so cold and dark that for almost a century, its existence was more of a suspicion than a proven fact. That animal is Mesonychoteuthis hamiltoni, the colossal squid, the heaviest invertebrate on the planet. When we think of giant squid, we tend to conflate everything: krakens, sea monsters, tentacles wrapping around ships. But biology is more precise than mythology. The colossal squid is not the same animal as the famous giant squid of the genus Architeuthis. It belongs to a different family. It has a more compact, more robust body, and above all, a distinguishing weapon. Its arms and tentacles don't just have suckers. They have sharp hooks, some capable of rotating like small claws. Even so, for decades, almost no one had seen one whole. Our first clue came in the least glamorous way possible, from the stomach of a sperm whale. In the winter of 1924 to 1925, 2 crowns of arms were found inside one of these whales. They were the remains of an unknown squid. That evidence led to the formal description of the species in 1925, and its naming as Mesonychoteuthis hamiltoni. Science discovered the colossal squid from what another predator failed to digest. Since then, history has repeated itself many times with the same frustrating pattern. A sperm whale's stomach would be opened, revealing giant squid beaks. Fragments of tentacles would be collected in fishing nets. Sometimes a loose arm, a fin, a piece of mantle. Enormous pieces, yes, but always incomplete. Until 2015, only a dozen more or less complete specimens had been recorded, and few of them were adults. What little we had was enough, however, to understand its scale. We know it can reach masses of nearly 500 kilos, perhaps even more in the largest individuals, making it the largest invertebrate in the world by weight. Its total length is deceptive. The body, the mantle, is usually around 2 to 4 meters long, but if you add the extended arms and tentacles, lengths of more than 10 meters are reached. For years, much higher figures were exaggerated. Today, we know that those inflated numbers came from stretched and damaged tentacles, not from measurements taken while alive. The largest complete specimen ever captured was retrieved in 2007 from the Ross Sea near Antarctica and taken to the Museum of New Zealand Te Papa Tongarewa. Thawing it was a challenge. It weighed nearly 495 kilograms with a mantle about 2.5 meters long and a shorter overall length than expected. Just 4.2 meters, partly because the tentacles shrink after death. Even so, it was enormous. Its beak was larger than those of most other known squid, and its eyes measured about 27 centimeters when collapsed. In life, they would have been around 30 to 40 centimeters in diameter. All this tells us about size, but not about context. Where does such an animal live? The colossal squid primarily inhabits the Southern Ocean around Antarctica. Its distribution is circumpolar. It is found around the frozen continent, from the waters near the southern tip of South America and Africa to southern New Zealand. It is an animal of cold, very cold seas, associated with the Antarctic circumpolar current and the great deep basins where sunlight reaches only as a distant memory. The depths it inhabits are also variable, but always below the zone comfortable for us. Specimens have been recorded between 20 meters and more than 2,000 meters deep, although most activity seems to be concentrated below 500 meters in permanently dark waters. There the temperature hovers around 0 degrees Celsius. There the pressure is tens or hundreds of times greater than at the surface. There, in that combination of cold, darkness, and extreme pressure, this squid has found its niche. For a long time, all of this was pieced together from carcasses and remains. Something essential was missing, seeing it alive in its natural habitat. That void only began to be filled very recently. In 2005, the first live specimen was captured while stealing a fish from a fishing line near South Georgia Island. It didn't survive the ascent, but the capture showed that it wasn't just a myth from sperm whale stomachs. The truly historic leap came in 2025. An expedition from the Schmidt Ocean Institute, working near the South Sandwich Islands, achieved what no one had managed before, filming a live colossal squid in its natural habitat at a depth of about 600 meters. The creature observed was just a juvenile, about 30 centimeters long, translucent, still far from the enormous size of an adult. But the characteristic features were there: the shape of its body, the hooks on its arms, the silhouette of a member of the heaviest species among invertebrates. That brief video sequence condensed decades of searching. Until then, the real colossal squid we knew were dead, preserved in formaldehyde, deformed by the weight of the ice, or crushed in defrosting vats. Now we saw one swimming, orienting itself, existing in its true dimension, as a normal inhabitant of an ocean that is almost unattainable for us. To understand the colossal squid, you have to stop thinking about the surface. You have to imagine a world where color is almost non-existent, where the water is so cold it's on the verge of freezing, where the pressure is so high that any air-filled cavity would be crushed like an empty can. That is the environment in which this animal moves naturally. It doesn't live in spite of these conditions. It lives thanks to them. The ocean is organized in layers. Above is the zone where sunlight penetrates, the zone where most of the fish we know swim, and where the sea appears blue. Below that comes a band of twilight, the mesopelagic zone. Further down, the almost total darkness of the bathypelagic zone, and finally, the abyssal plains. The colossal squid is not a surface dweller that ventures a little way down. It is, above all, an animal of the deep, cold zones near Antarctica. There, the temperature hovers around 0 degrees Celsius. The water can be at minus 1.8 degrees Celsius and still remain liquid due to the salt. There are no abrupt seasonal changes. There are no clear days or moonlit nights. It is a thermally stable environment, but extreme in every other respect. Available energy is low, food is scarce, every mistake is costly. In that context, the idea of an invertebrate that can reach nearly 500 kilos seems absurd, until we look closely at the physical rules of the place. The first factor is pressure. At hundreds or thousands of meters deep, every square centimeter of surface area withstands tens of times the pressure of the atmosphere. An animal full of air cavities would have a very difficult time. A rigid skeleton could fracture if there were poorly protected gaps. The colossal squid avoids this problem in a simple way. It has no internal skeleton of bone, no lungs, and no air-filled sinuses. It is almost entirely soft tissue saturated with water. External and internal pressure equalize. It's like lowering a full bottle to the brim. It doesn't deform. The second factor is buoyancy. For such a large animal, expending energy just to avoid sinking would be an enormous cost. The colossal squid reduces this expenditure by adapting the chemistry of its tissues. Part of its internal fluids is loaded with salts and compounds that bring its density closer to that of seawater. It doesn't need to be flapping its fins all the time to stay afloat. It can hover in the darkness, almost weightless. This also explains why its flesh isn't good food for us. These compounds make it difficult to digest and, in large quantities, a laxative. On the surface, large bodies are usually associated with powerful, rapid movements. We think of a great white shark slicing through the water or an orca accelerating. In the deep ocean, size has a different meaning. This is where deep-sea gigantism and polar gigantism come into play. In very cold environments with slow changes, being large helps to store energy for long periods. A large mass cools slowly, consumes resources at a lower rate per unit volume, and is better able to withstand long periods without food. That doesn't mean the colossal squid is a clumsy tank. Its muscles can produce rapid movements when needed, but its strategy isn't prolonged pursuit. In waters with almost no cover, trying to run uphill against a large predator like a sperm whale would be energetic suicide. It's more efficient to remain almost motionless, floating, and move only when the right opportunity arises or the threat is unavoidable. The giant behaves more like a silent trap than a tireless hunter. The Southern Ocean also has a key peculiarity. It's cold but very rich in oxygen. The waters surrounding Antarctica mix at depth and draw large quantities of dissolved oxygen downwards. This reserve is what allows enormous, slow metabolizing animals to continue functioning in such low temperatures. The colossal squid relies on this abundance, although it uses it in a very different way than a marine mammal. Its solution isn't lungs and red blood, it's something else. The shape of its body also responds to the environment. Its mantle is shorter and thicker than that of the giant squid. It's not designed for maximum speed in long sprints. It's a compact trunk that protects internal organs and provides anchorage for strong arms, equipped with suckers and hooks. The relative surface area is less than that of an elongated body, which reduces heat and energy loss. This is a typical pattern for large animals in cold environments, less exposed surface area per kilogram of mass. But beneath the skin, things get even stranger. We breathe thanks to hemoglobin. It's the protein that gives blood its red color and binds to oxygen in the lungs. The colossal squid, like other cephalopods, doesn't use hemoglobin, it uses hemocyanin. Hemocyanin also carries oxygen, but instead of iron, it has copper at its core. That's why its blood isn't red, it's blue. A dark blue, almost black, when oxygenated. This isn't a quirk of evolution, it's a physical response to the environment. Hemocyanin works better than hemoglobin in cold water. The Southern Ocean and the depths where the colossal squid lives are environments with low temperatures and high dissolved oxygen. This is precisely the kind of environment where hemocyanin can function with reasonable efficiency. The protein remains active, capturing oxygen in the gills and releasing it into the tissues without functionally freezing. The other component of the system is the heart. Large cephalopods like this one have three. Two branchial hearts, one on each side, pump blood to the gills, and a central systemic heart pumps the oxygenated blood to the rest of the body. It's a circuit designed to overcome two obstacles simultaneously: the density of cold water and the viscosity of blood laden with large proteins like hemocyanin. The systemic heart handles the long haul. It beats powerfully to deliver oxygen to the mantle, arms, tentacles, and the large muscles that enable powerful movements. The branchial hearts do the fine work, ensuring that the blood that has just passed through the gills returns oxygen-rich. It's a redundant system for a large body that can't tolerate too many drops in internal pressure. Even so, hemocyanin is less efficient than hemoglobin. To transport the same amount of oxygen, the colossal squid needs to have more dissolved protein and pump a larger volume of blood. That comes at a price. It can't maintain a metabolism as high and sustained as that of a marine mammal. It can't swim at full speed for long periods. Strength and speed, yes, but only in short bursts. That limitation has shaped its lifestyle. The colossal squid isn't a long-distance pursuer. It isn't a dolphin. It isn't a tuna. It's an ambush predator. Its basic strategy is to conserve energy. It floats almost motionless in the water column, thanks to its neutral buoyancy. It holds its arms outstretched in a wide arc, its tentacles ready, its hooks at the ready. And it waits. When large prey enters its attack range, the scene changes in milliseconds. This is where another of its physiological advantages comes into play: a very fast nervous system. Like other squid, it has giant axons, nerve fibers with a much larger diameter than ours. These fibers allow electrical impulses to travel at high speed. The result is simple. It can coordinate a whip-like strike of tentacles in a very short time. Its diet gives us clues as to how it takes advantage of these capabilities. Remains found in the stomachs of predators and some contents of its own stomachs indicate that it feeds mainly on deep-sea cold-water fish. Among them, one stands out: the Antarctic toothfish, a large, slow-moving, fat-laden fish with a similar distribution in the Southern Ocean. It is an ideal prey. Each capture provides a lot of energy and justifies the expenditure of the attack. Its weapons are brutal. The arms and tentacles have suckers, but many of these are reinforced with hooks. Some are fixed, others capable of rotating. Upon hooking its prey, these hooks dig in and, if necessary, rotate. They can tear through skin, rip through muscle, and hold the captured animal firmly in place. From there, everything moves toward the center of the body, where the beak is located. A colossal squid's beak resembles that of a giant parrot carved from keratin. It is hard, sharp, and capable of slicing through flesh and bone. Behind the beak is a toothed tongue, the radula, which acts like a living sandpaper. The prey is crushed into pieces and passes into the esophagus. In an environment where each meal can be a long time coming, making the most of every bite is crucial. This lifestyle explains why the classic image of the ship-attacking monster makes no biological sense. An attack on a huge, solid object with no nutritional value would be an absurd waste of energy. What does make sense is a swift attack on a large fish, another squid, or even an injured animal that crosses its path. And of course, there's another reason: the desperate defense when the approaching threat is a sperm whale. Because the colossal squid doesn't just hunt, it's also hunted. Large sperm whales dive to similar depths in search of food. Their stomachs are full of squid beaks, including enormous beaks that can only belong to this species. Some sperm whales show deep, long scars that appear to run parallel and could have been caused by hooks, not just suckers. If you look at the colossal squid from the outside, one feature dominates everything else: its eyes. Two disproportionate spheres, roughly the size of a soccer ball, occupy a good portion of its head. They are, as far as we know, the largest eyes that evolution has produced in a modern animal, with estimated diameters of 27 to 30 centimeters in adults. At first glance, this seems wasteful. In the deep ocean, there is almost no sunlight. Many creatures in those depths have reduced their eyes to a minimum or lost them altogether. Others rely primarily on touch or pressure-sensitive organs. Why then does this squid invest so much energy in building and maintaining such structures? The answer lies in the type of light that exists down there. Time something large swims by. It stirs. Time something large swims by. It stirs this cloud of tiny beings and creates a trail of blue or green sparks. It's a faint, fleeting light, but real. In that world, the difference between seeing and not seeing depends on how much light you can gather. That's where size comes in. Means that the colossal squid can detect minute contrasts, very subtle changes in brightness at a distance. It's not interested in seeing fine details, like the texture of a scale. What it's looking for is something else, the signal that something enormous is approaching. Vision models developed for these animals show something very clear. Beyond a certain size, making the eye even larger hardly improves the ability to see small or nearby things. But it does greatly improve the ability to detect large objects, tens of meters across, moving through the darkness. Exactly the type of target a sperm whale represents. A predator that can measure 15 meters or more and dives emitting sonar pulses in search of squid. Studies suggest that with eyes of this size, the animal could detect the presence of a sperm whale at distances of up to 100 meters under favorable conditions. It's not much when we think about land, but in the deep ocean it's a crucial advantage. It provides extra seconds to change position, descend, turn your body, prepare a defense. In an environment where everything happens in silence and without a horizon, those seconds make the difference between life and death. The position of the eyes also matters. They face forward, not to the sides like many fish. This allows for binocular vision, calculating distances, and better perceiving the volume of large objects approaching from the front or below. It's not just about seeing something move, but about estimating whether that something is heading directly toward it or will pass by. It's believed that the colossal squid doesn't distinguish colors in its retina as we do. At those depths, color ceases to have meaning. What matters are the differences in intensity: shadows, flashes, silhouettes. The enormous pupil, several centimeters in diameter, opens to let in any trace of light. The large spherical lens focuses that light onto a sensitive surface designed to extract every last photon. Its brain, although small in absolute size compared to that of a mammal, dedicates a significant portion to visual processing. The optic lobes are large in proportion to the rest of the nervous system. This indicates a clear specialization. In the world of the colossal squid, good vision has more survival value than good smell or good hearing. Optical signals are their early warning system against a predator that cannot hear or track them by sound. The marks it leaves on its enemies complete the picture. Many sperm whales bear long, deep scars on their heads and faces. These aren't shark bites or rock cuts. They're parallel lines, likely made by hooks that plunge in and drag along as the squid writhes, trying to escape. They aren't proof that it wins these fights, but they are proof that it doesn't give up without a fight. At the same time, those giant eyes aren't just for defense. They can also help locate large prey in the dim light. A school of large fish or a sizable squid also leaves a luminous, contrasting signature as it moves among bioluminescent organisms. A brighter flash, a shifting shadow, a silhouette etched against the faint glow of the plankton. Instead of tracking every detail, the colossal squid seems finely tuned to detect anomalies in the light field. For a long time, the colossal squid wasn't an animal. It was a clue, a trace, a gigantic beak inside the stomach of a sperm whale, a tentacle fragment caught in a net. When scientists began finding these pieces at the beginning of the 20th century, it became clear that something enormous was living in the cold depths of the South, something that didn't fit with any known species. In 1925, from remains collected in the Southern Ocean, a new species was formally described. It received a long name, Mesonychoteuthis hamiltoni. For many, it was just a Latin label on dried fragments in a museum. There were no photographs of it alive, no videos, not even a complete, well-preserved specimen, only pieces. Even so, the data was clear. This animal surpassed the classic giant squid in weight. It had hooks, not just suckers, and it inhabited the seas around Antarctica. Over time, accidental catches added pieces to the puzzle. The occasional juvenile specimen brought in by trawling nets. Some adults were half torn apart after ascending from depths of over 1,000 meters, and above all, the 2007 discovery in the Ross Sea, which allowed for the study of an almost complete individual and confirmed that the scale was real. It wasn't a myth inflated by sailors. It was a robust, heavy animal with enormous eyes and a beak disproportionate to any everyday reference point. Meanwhile, popular culture continued to look the other way. The quintessential sea monster was the kraken, an undefined squid that attacked ships, appeared out of nowhere, and sank sailboats with its tentacles. A blend of Norse tales, fear of the unknown, and literary fantasy. The colossal squid slipped into this collective imagination almost by default. It had tentacles, lived in darkness, and no one had ever seen it properly. It seemed to fit the bill. Reality, as is often the case, is stranger and more precise. This animal isn't roaming all the oceans or lurking around the hulls of ships. It's confined to a cold belt surrounding Antarctica. Its distribution follows the great circumpolar current that circles the continent. There, it finds three key things: temperatures near freezing, highly oxygenated waters, and large, fatty prey that justify its size. Among these prey, the Antarctic toothfish stands out. It is a large, slow-moving fish, rich in blubber and adapted, like the squid, to deep, cold waters. It lives in the same areas, at similar depths. It is part of a food web where everything is precisely balanced: krill, fish, squid, seals, penguins, whales. The colossal squid occupies a particular place in that web, a predator of large animals, but at the same time an important prey for sperm whales and other large marine mammals. Its reign, then, is not that of an absolute tyrant, but rather that of a key player in a very specific system. It dominates the depths of its range, but under very strict conditions. It depends on the stability of the Southern Ocean. It depends on the waters remaining cold and well oxygenated. It depends on its prey remaining there, on the balance of the Antarctic food chain not being disrupted. Here's where the uncomfortable part of the story comes in. The Southern Ocean is changing, slowly but changing. Rising global temperatures are also warming polar waters. This alters the mixing patterns of water masses. It modifies sea ice, which in turn affects krill, the base of many food chains. If deep-sea fish communities change, so do the feeding opportunities for the colossal squid. Added to this is fishing pressure. Species like the Antarctic toothfish have been the target of intensive fisheries due to their commercial value. They are large, fatty fish, highly prized. If fishing reduces their populations below certain limits, the impact doesn't stop at the human consumer's plate. It ripples through the entire food web. It affects predators we'll never see, like the colossal squid, and others more visible, like seals and sperm whales. International organizations attempt to regulate this exploitation. Quotas, protected areas, and catch limits are established. But the reality of the Antarctic seabed remains, to a large extent, a mystery. We don't know how many colossal squid there are. We don't know how their populations respond to temperature changes or pressure on their prey. We don't know how much tolerance this soft giant has in a warming and acidifying ocean. This ignorance isn't just scientific, it's also symbolic. The colossal squid represents everything we still don't know about the deep sea. For centuries, we looked to the sky and thought the great mystery lay in the stars. The ocean, meanwhile, continued to harbor creatures that, if we didn't know they existed, we would believe belonged to science fiction. An animal weighing hundreds of kilograms, boneless, with eyes the size of a soccer ball and rotating hooks on its tentacles, living in an invisible belt of icy water around the planet. Today, we've only seen it alive a couple of times on video. We've measured some dead specimens. We've reconstructed its anatomy, its hunting strategies, its defenses. We know it fights sperm whales in the dark. We know that its blue blood and 3 hearts are elegant solutions to physical problems we'll never face on the surface. And yet, the essential remains elusive. What its daily life is like, how long it lives, how it reproduces, how many there are. This lack of knowledge has value. It reminds us that, even in the age of satellites and space telescopes, Earth remains partly an unexplored planet. That beneath the white line of the Antarctic map lies an entire ocean whose workings we are only beginning to understand. And that within that ocean dwells a silent giant, fine-tuned by millions of years of evolution to fit into an environment that we are altering in just a few decades. Thinking about the colossal squid isn't just thinking about an impressive monster. It's thinking about the fragility of the conditions that make it possible, about how precise the balance of temperature, oxygen, and food must be for such an animal to exist, and about how little it takes to change that balance for it to disappear, perhaps without us even realizing it. Meanwhile, it remains down there, floating in the darkness, waiting for a large fish to cross its attack range, measuring glimmers in the gloom with the largest eyes on the planet, avoiding, when possible, the shadow of a sperm whale that descends like a living missile from the surface. Its world is alien to ours, but we share something fundamental. We depend on the state of the same ocean. Understanding it is, ultimately, another way of beginning to understand ourselves on a planet covered, above all, by water.